Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we're privileged to have with us Brad Sugars, who is the founder of ActionCOACH. Brad, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike, good to be with you.
Hey, so I'm sure everyone has heard of ActionCOACH, but boy, having 1,000 coaches around the world and in 70 countries is such a huge, enormous organization. And I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but when you first started ActionCOACH, I think back in the early 90s, did you have any vision of where the whole franchise could go, or was it just you were trying to help change the world one person at a time?
Yeah, look, I think when I first started, it was purely by accident that someone asked me to come and do speeches. And, you know, I was a young man in business myself, and people said, well, can you teach us what you're doing that's working? And all of a sudden, at the end of seminars or at the end of speaking events, people would say to me, well, can you help me? And I was like, well, not really. I'm running my own business. I'm doing a few of these speech things. I don't have any time. And I said, well, maybe if you call me every week, I'll coach you through in how to do some stuff. And I don't know where it is, but there's a light that goes on in your head at some point. When enough people ask you, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? You need to start selling that.
Yeah.
So one day I sat down and said, all right, there's enough people asking for this. I need to actually make this a business. And here we are today, 26 years later, in almost 80 countries, 1,000 offices, and a great team helping me build this thing across the world.
Hey, so at what point did you start making the decision to codify what you were giving? Because at first, I'm sure you were just talking to people and kind of giving them advice, and then it became random, and then you started thinking, well, there's a system to this, and let's codify this, and let's make this into our plan. You know, was that something that just kind of gradually came to be?
You know, when you start teaching something, and this is real interesting about for any business owner, when you try and teach someone what you do and how you do it, you leave out a lot of steps because you just take that for granted type thing, you know, and it's like, I just, to teach it, to get up on stage and actually say to someone, this is how I do what I do, I really had to think through how did we do it. And then we'd coached about 13,000 companies when I first wrote the book, The Business Coach. That's some 15-odd years ago now. And but, you know, once we'd done 13,000 of them and got it to success, we knew that we had a system that worked type thing. So now we do about 18 to 20,000 businesses a week that we coach one-on-one, and hundreds of thousands in our group programs every week. So it's kind of like, it's interesting, though, Mike, and you would see this because the number of interviews you do and the success you chat with every week, it's really interesting to see that people don't realize there is a recipe for business success, or there's a system for business success. And if you want to create a successful business, follow the recipe. And it's really interesting that people never bother to learn the recipe. And that's why I love your interviews. You expose the recipe all the time.
Well, thank you. And, you know, I think that there's something that what you just said makes me think of something, which is sometimes you miss the forest for the trees. You're in the middle of your business and you think you're doing things the right way, but you need that external third party perspective to say, hey, here's some avenues you can go down and let's avoid this side. So that's the benefit of the coaching, especially when it's coaching from a specific proven system for success. So I think that a lot of business owners would just feel like I'm doing good and I'm improving, but how much are you leaving on the table? If you had someone come alongside you, guiding you, you could be making that much more improvement.
Yeah, look, I sit back and I know there's a few reasons business coaching works, and one of them is definitely the accountability of an outside business coach. I mean, you know, even personal training, people know they would do some workout, but with a trainer you work out much harder and get results much faster. And that's true. I think the knowledge that a coach brings is the second reason, but I think that the third reason that coaching works is that it is an outsider looking in. You know, unfortunately in our own business, we can't see the problems. We look at everyone else's business and we go, oh, you could do A, B, C, D, E, and F. I mean, we could come up with a list of 20 things for other people. And then in our own business, and I've said it quite bluntly before, that a business grows to the owner's level of incompetence. The moment you run out of the ability to do things is when the business stops growing. And that's why an owner that keeps learning, an owner that keeps growing, or an entrepreneur or a CEO that keeps learning is the one that has a growth business under them.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of ties right into your latest book, Pulling Profits Out of a Hat. And I know it's hit, every bestseller list known out there. So give us a little bit of a background on, yes, the book, but I would like to ask to start off with, you've written so many books. At what point made you think, okay, here's the next topic of pulling profits out of a hat, and then this is what we're going to focus on? What goes on to make you go, here's the next one, and now let's start diving into creating that content?
Yeah, it's funny. When you're an author, you have about 30 books in your head at any point in time. But I was sitting at lunch with a buddy of mine one day, and he said to me, it just seems like magic the way these companies like IKEA and Amazon and Southwest, it just seems like magic how they keep growing and making more money. And I looked at him, I said, you're not serious about that, are you? And he says, well, kind of, yeah. I said, well, exponential business growth is just a systematic methodology. It's just following a structured process. And, this being book number 17, we actually took 2 years to build this book because we went and tested all the principles on our clients. And it's fun when you have thousands of clients to test all the principles on. You actually can show this is what happens when you do this and this is what happens when you do that. But sitting back and saying, what does it take for exponential business growth? Because a lot of businesses are very happy with 15% or 20%. And I always say to them, okay, you had 30% last year. What would it take to have 30 times growth? Because if you replace the percentage with an X, then it challenges people's thinking, because a percentage growth just means a little more work, a little harder work, a little bit better in each area type thing. But to actually sit back and say, how do we grow by multiples rather than percentages, you actually have to look at the strategy of the business. You have to look at the business development process, the people, the 5 core disciplines that we write about in the book all have to be examined deeply, not just on the surface and not just little changes, but in many cases wholesale changes.
You mentioned exponential growth, and you always think about exponential meaning, you do, like the lever, Archimedes says, give me a lever and I can move the world. And that wasn't like moving the whole world. It was just pushing down this lever. And because you had that leverage, you were able to do great things. So exponential growth kind of makes me think that. So I want to speak about that, but I want to frame it up with this question that was, as you were explaining that, it made me think, I'm confident that the basic principles in the book, the 5 disciplines, will work for companies because you've proven it. But do you feel like some companies might say, well, I'm just a startup, or I'm just at this level, it probably won't work for me? You have to be the Ubers of the world or the IKEAs of the world because you need that momentum and that, longevity. But does it just mean that the exponential growth principles you teach would work for any business, but when you are those bigger ones, it could be that much more amplified?
A, B, and C. Yes, all of the above.
Yes, all the above. What's the next question?
Listen, very simply put, the smallest of small businesses, if they go with the wrong strategy on day one, stay the smallest of small businesses.
Yeah.
And even the biggest of companies, I was in with a large, very large company based here in the States, and I sat with them and I said, well, what's your strategy for opening in India? And they all looked at each other and said, well, we don't have a strategy for opening in India. And I said, well, okay, what's your strategy for opening in China then? And they looked at each other again. They said, Brad, we don't have strategies for that. And I said, well, okay, then how are you going to have exponential growth if you're not going to hit a third of the world's marketplace?
Wow.
What is going to happen for your business? And so that smallest of small business that starts with the question of how am I going to open in every country in the world is a different question than how am I going to sell 2 cakes down the road at my retail store and type thing. It's a very different strategy. Most of what I do today is buy companies and turn them around, or buy companies and take them global. I bought a little company down in Houston, Texas, which is a great property management company. Phenomenal systems, amazing systems. And if you go to, do you remember, did you get to see Ray Kroc's, the movie about Ray Kroc, the founder?
I did not, but I know he's with McDonald's.
If you get a chance, and anyone listening, if you get a chance, watch the movie for the lessons in business, okay? It should have been called The Finder, because Ray Kroc was not the founder of McDonald's. The McDonald brothers were. But he came along, and he had this amazing find. It was a great little business that was amazing, had great systems, great operations, great management, great business development and marketing strategies. And he said, how can I have this on every street corner? See, the McDonald brothers kept looking at it as, how do I sell another burger? Ray Kroc looked at it the same way I look at business, say, how do I put this in every country in the world? Or how do okay, this business is phenomenal. I just bought a company down in Australia that's a commercial cleaning business. And I looked at it and I said, this is phenomenal. And now we've spread it across Australia, and now we're spreading it across the UK. And then I'll bring it to here in the States. But this, to me, is where, when you sit back and look at it, you can be the smallest business in the world and actually start with the real question, or you can be the biggest business in the world and sit back and look at, hey, we don't have a strategy for India. Either way, the core principles work across the board.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And rightly so. If you are the bigger business with more resources, you're going to have that much more momentum, but you better start, if you're a small business, with that good, solid foundation, or else you're just spinning your wheels. So yeah, that's a super explanation. Let's move into the 5 disciplines. What are they? And kind of give us a brief overview of how that's going to add more zeros and pull those profits out of a hat.
Yeah, look, so the 5 disciplines, and they match up with, when you read the book, you'll see the 5 constituents, because business is no longer just about shareholder value. It's about the community. It's about the people in the company, the customer. We got to go through all that. But the 5 core disciplines are, in no particular order, strategy, business development, people, execution, and mission. If I can give you a very quick explanation of each of those. Strategy is really what is the core base of how the business operates. And, when I sit back and look at strategy, it takes into account what you mentioned before, leverage. How do you, and my definition of leverage is do the work once, get paid forever. How do you get a customer once that stays forever? How do you have a product that sells forever? And the second part, there's 4 parts to strategy. The second part being that of scalability. What is the scalability of the product or service? Because, most businesses are so human intense that we don't see scalability. What did Uber do? Uber removed humans from the taxi process. In the taxi, you call a company, there's a person answers the phone, they get on a dispatch call and call the person, and then finally, eventually, someone turns up at your house. Whereas Uber just said, how do we get rid of those humans? And boom, all of a sudden the business boomed. And then marketability and size of market, opportunity size, are part of strategy. And that's really where I sit with a lot of businesses. We can come back to that one a little bit. I love chatting on that one. Business development is your customer service, your sales, and your marketing. And they're real easy if you've got a business that isn't growing. But if you're in exponential growth mode and you're opening new offices, that has to change dramatically. People, very simple answer on people. You don't build your business, your people do. And if you don't build your people, they can't build your business. So how do you actually recruit, hire, train, manage, lead, and coach your people so that they become better, so that they build a better company? And that's the core of that one. Execution. Again, execution's easy if you're not growing. It's doing the same thing over and over again. But when you're in growth mode, your systems often need to be changed. The basic systems, the checklist, the day-to-day management of the business is what leads to execution. Somewhere in the 90s, management became a dirty word, and all of a sudden we saw all these books come out on execution because there was no management left in the business anymore. Systems became strong, but there was no management side of it. So we've got to deal with all 3 of those areas to get execution right. And then mission. I like to describe mission as using the word love in business. If your customers love doing business with you, you're on mission. If your staff love coming to work, then you have a team, and the team is on mission. It's not just about words on the wall. It's about how do you build someone loving doing business with you, and how do you build someone loving coming to work for you. So that's the shortest version, Mike, I can give you the 5 disciplines.
No, that's awesome. And you mentioned marketability as being something really, really powerful. Do you feel that's the most important aspect of the strategy, or just one of the cornerstone pieces?
Just one of the cornerstone, because when I sit and look at it, like I bought a commercial cleaning business. Why? I don't actually have to convince you to get commercial cleaning, and this is where you look at a lot of businesses, and especially a lot of startups, where they come to me and they say, oh, we've got this new idea. It's this new thing that no one knows about, no one's ever heard of, no one's buying it. It's a great opportunity. And I look at them and go, hang on, sell shoes. People already buy shoes. They already know they want shoes. You just got to come up with a better methodology of getting them the shoes and a better methodology of them buying, like Zappos did, and then, hey, there, presto, Zappos is $1 billion company inside 10 years. And this is the side of marketability. I think in strategy, if you look at leverage, I guess that's probably one of the core principles that is behind it. Do the work once, get paid forever. If you look at even Let's use Apple and Microsoft as an example. Microsoft started with a strategy of leverage. Make a piece of software once, sell it forever. Apple started with a strategy of make a computer once and sell it once. And you've got two different strategies. Now, when no one owned a computer, make a computer once and sell it once worked. But once everyone had a computer, that strategy started to fall over, and the business almost went into bankruptcy. And you see, if you look at the history of those two companies, Microsoft goes and Bill Gates becomes the richest person in the world. Steve Jobs gets fired from Apple. Now, he goes and learns leverage. He went and learned a bunch of other things as well, like good management and good people skills when he went and ran his little business, Pixar. He bought Pixar, turned it into a massive company, sold it off to Disney for billions. But what did he learn? Make a movie once, sell it forever. Disney still sells you talk about a superstar of leverage. The Disney Corporation is a study in leverage. They are the most amazing company when it comes to, if anyone with little kids understands, they're going to sell you that movie 1,000 different ways. It's like all of the small cuts of selling you the movie in different ways. The music, the toy, the bed sheets, the T-shirt, the whole thing. But what Steve Jobs did when he came back to Apple is he said, listen, we're no longer going to be in the non-leverage business. We need to be in leverage. And he's even smarter than me. See, he didn't go to do it once and get paid forever. He said, do it no times and get paid forever. So he went into the music business. Apple's never made a song, yet they sell millions of them every single day. Yeah. Then you get even smarter. He sees the music industry moving to all of these Spotify's, the subscription-based service, and all of the music companies said, no, we're not going to give you subscription-based. So he went and bought this little company, paid billions of dollars for it, just happened to be called Beats Headphones, because they had a subscription-based deal with all the music companies. He didn't want a headphone company, he wanted a subscription-based deal. So again, it's do the work once, get paid forever. Look at Microsoft now. They don't even sell you the software, they rent you the software. All of these companies that understand this part of strategy really start to see massive business growth in the long term. But if you're in the business of get a customer once, sell them once, and then have to go and get another customer, you got a dang hard business.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of businesses stuck in that mode, and you hear the word scale, and you hear the concept of, well, you need to pull yourself out of the business so that you can take a 2-month vacation and the business actually grows. What do you feel is one of the first places that a business should start making some of those changes so that they're not doing the one-to-one that they let's face it, a lot of businesses can't do the build an iTunes type of a model and not sell the actual music, but sell the equipment that houses the music. But in that specific, in any industry, how could a business start going, what do we do right now? And how can we do it in a broader scale without having to hire 14,000 more people and really have an internal implosion?
I think what you've got to start with is, it's the thing that we start with every coaching client around the world. At ActionCOACH, the first goal we have every single business owner set is a very simple goal. What date will you finish the business? What date? And my definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you. If it doesn't work without you, you work for a crazy person, okay? And the reality of it is, the date, if you set the date that business will run without you, not be finished, but run without you, and you work towards a plan, and it might take 3 years, 7 years, however long it's going to take, but once you have that mindset in place, my job is to build a business that works so I don't have to, then you start to think differently. And people are like, but hang on, I'm an artist, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. Well, you know what? When I started business coaching, I was the only business coach. Now I have a company that runs without me. In fact, I own 9 companies. I work 12 hours a week because my CEOs do phenomenal work. I just coach my CEOs, and eventually you've got to start with that mindset, though, Mike. I think it starts with the understanding that I can build a business that works without me. I can do that. There is a system for doing that. And I've written all the books on it, or people can go and chat with a coach on it to see how it actually happens. But I'll give you an example. I have one of our clients in Atlanta, Georgia, top heart surgeon in Atlanta. And one day he comes into work and he starts feeling his own pain. He realizes, holy I'm having a heart problem right now. He went and had to have 2 stents put in, and he sat back and he said, you know what, I can't do this. If something happens to me, my business is dead.
Yeah.
Now he has a business with many doctors working for him, his own surgery center. He's in real estate plays. He's doing a whole bunch of different things. Now he's in the medical business. He's not just a doctor. Does that make sense, the distinction between the two?
Yeah. Yeah. You're pulling yourself out of the day-to-day tasks and pulling yourself back to the strategy side of things. And yes, probably if you were honest, Brad Sugars, would look at one of his leaders, managers, CEOs and go, you know what, that one task there, I could have probably done a little bit different, better, but guess what? You can't have your hands in all of these things. At some point, you need to pull back and just trust in that process. So yeah, I think that becomes
one of the keys to success in business is the ability to let go.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are a business owner or a business exec that doesn't have the ability to let go, you're going to struggle. But that comes back to the people side of it.
Yeah.
See, if you're willing to build, I remember when I was a young man and I went to my dad, and my dad's a very blunt advisor in my world, and I said, you know what, Dad, I don't know why, but I just can't get good people. I think I was about 20 or 21 in business, and he looked at me and said, Brad, you get the people you deserve. You're an average manager running an average business. Highest caliber of employee you're going to get is average.
Yeah.
And of course, you can see where I got my motivational streak from, obviously. But you sit back and you look at it and you think, oh, my God, he's so right in the fact that, you know, if I want great people, I got to be a great leader. I got to build a great company. Great people don't work for average bosses. So it's a balancing act. How do you build your people so they build the company? And you know, it was interesting. I was doing a speech in Ireland in Belfast, and the guy says to me, "But Brad, when I build my people, when I train my people, they leave." And I said, "Yeah, and if you don't, they'll stay."
Yeah, really.
And, he didn't quite get it for the first minute or two, and then he caught on. And it's one of those things. You got to build a company that is. Well, you got to build the people, but you also got to build missions so that they have a reason to stay over and above just a paycheck. If they're just there for the paycheck, you'll never keep great people. You've got to have a reason for them to stay that's so much grander than just, oh, I made an extra dollar or two. You know, if it's all about the money, you lose great people.
Well, and another reason to stay, maybe one of the concepts you talk about in the book is putting the fun back in the business. Talk a little bit about putting the fun back into the business.
Well, look, I'll be very blunt with people. If business isn't fun, you're doing something wrong. You know, let's be realistic about it. And I do this at seminars all across the U.S. Whenever I do speeches for big corporations or big entities or associations and stuff, they say to me, you know, I just ask them a question. I said, what airline in America has the most fun? And every single time, everyone shouts out, Southwest, you know, and you sit there and go, well, which one's making the most money? And they look at it. See, here's the thing. If you're not having fun and you're the owner of the business, imagine how awful it is for your staff. Yeah. And if it's that bad for your staff, imagine how bad it is for your customers. You know, and if you want Instagram, if you want Facebook, if you want free posts, if you want that social media to work for you, you've got to be doing things that make people want to post on Instagram and want to post. Like, I own a restaurant here in Vegas. We put all of our waiters and waitresses through photography training and digital camera training so that when people came in, we would ask them at their table, by the way, would you like a photograph? Because we know that if they take a photo, the chances of them posting it are about 80%. If we don't take a photo, they're not going to post anything. You know, in today's world, marketing world today, the two most important things. Number one, ratings. Number two, testimonials. And what type of testimonials? Video testimonials.
Yeah.
If you've got great ratings and great testimonials, you are ahead of 90% of your industry because you will never outsell a great customer review. And you'll never outperform a negative customer review. I had to learn that the hard way when the internet first came along and people would leave reviews. And I never thought about getting my good customers to leave reviews. I didn't worry about it. I just kept doing good customer work. And then all of a sudden I realized, hang on a sec, if I don't get my good customers to talk about me, the only people talking about me are the negative customers. So I needed to go to my good customers and ask them, hey, would you mind doing a video about working with me? Hey, would you mind leaving me a testimonial? So those are the sorts of things that I think are vital in today's world.
Yeah. You mentioned the people, and we could probably talk for hours on end on just that one aspect, but it reminded me of when I interviewed John Ruhlin, the author of Giftology, and he was talking about how using gifts will engender great open up great doors with your customer base, your referral sources, your strategic alliances. But he said something really curious and I found really powerful. He said, you don't start with the people that you want to get business from or deepen relationships externally. Start doing the gifting concept with your internal people, your staff, your employees, because if they see all of these customers and prospects getting all the attention, they're like, well, how about us? So he starts in his companies and he advises his clients to do the same thing. And you mentioned cleaning services and things like that. And one of the things that stuck in my mind, he says, you know what, for our employees, we pay for a cleaning service so that once a month or twice a month, their house is clean so that when they come home, they have come home to a clean house and they think, wow, my company takes care of me. So do you find that is another overlooked opportunity in companies where they, kind of treat their treat their employees okay, but they treat their customers way better?
Yeah, look, I think that the best statement on that ever was Sir Richard Branson when, he kept being asked about, the value of a customer, and he started to turn around and say, listen, the cost of losing a customer is X. The cost of losing an employee is at least 10 customers.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to start to sit down and think about what's the value of retention of your employees. And, losing an employee costs the company a ton of money. So if you just look at it from that perspective, yes, you've definitely got to build the positive side of it and definitely got to make sure that your team is built and, how you take care of them is up to you. And I find that the biggest thing that you can do for team members is train them, and they love if you have a budget for training them and you have an ability to get them to learn, because what do people love doing? They love learning, they love growing, and if they see that they're learning and growing in a position, then that they ultimately want to stay in that position. I think that that's a very important aspect behind it. But, building your people builds your business, because you don't have the time nor the ability to do it all. And if it's all in your head, then the business can't grow past you. So you got to build those.
Well, Brad, let's wrap up with what is one of the biggest takeaways that you hope people pull away from your book when they read it.
I think the simplest one is that exponential growth is possible. When you see the number of examples of how it can be done, and it's almost 3 pounds, this book. It's a big book, but it comes back to this is not just what to do, but how to actually do it. And I think that that's really important for people to understand. You can grow exponentially. You can do it. And here's the strategies to actually make that happen.
Well, I've purchased the book and it is next up in my queue in my Kindle after I finish this one I'm reading now. So I'm looking forward to diving in. And is Amazon the best place to pick it up, or do you have other opportunities where there's websites or your website to pick up a copy as well?
Yeah, Amazon is fine. Ad Zeros Now is a simple one, or bradsugars.com. You can find me on any social media basically and track me through there. But yeah, Amazon's easy to book. Actually, you won't find me on Pinterest. I'm not really a craft.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful chatting with you about your book.
Mike, it's wonderful to chat with you. Thanks for a great interview.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.